Welcome everyone to another edition of our STAMPtember exclusive. This is Sherry Carroll and I am featuring art impressions. And I have this adorable set. It's called Sweet B-Day and it features these really fun gals that are enjoying some donuts and coffee. And I really love how that arc of donuts and the stack of donuts that can be brightly colored to surround these girls. And for my project, I'll also be using the coordinating dies, and these fit perfectly onto the stamp set. The one die cuts out the donut arch and the girls together, and then also that little stack of donuts that are on the lower left. I'm going to be creating a shaker card, so I have found some pattern paper that I really love, and that is from Craft Consortium's Beach Hut pack, and I've chosen just one of the light ones so that it doesn't distract from my girls. I've also used the Simon Says Stamp nested domed arches to cut out the center part of my paper. The arch that I've chosen for my background is a little bit smaller than my stamp set, so I can set my image in front. I'll be using my Misty and my Stamp and Stencil mat to stamp my image, and once I get that put onto the door, I'll be using the Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink since I'll be using Copic markers. This is a really fine line design, so you may need to ink it up and stamp twice to get a really good impression. I've die cut my image before doing my coloring just in case I mess up during the die cutting process, and I wouldn't want to spend all the time on coloring and then have to redo it. So these girls will look really great right on top of that arch, and they will sit perfectly, and I can pop them up over the shaker element. I'm using some Copic markers, and I've chosen colors that will go really well with my background for my ladies' clothing choice. I won't be doing any fancy coloring. I'm just going to do some really basics. I like to start off with the really light color first and then go around with the dark color just to outline some shadows. I do like to use the example on the packaging for where those shadows might need to hit. And once I add some of those shadows, I can go back in with another coat of the light markers. I am using Hammerhill 100-pound cardstock for this, and it just really takes the Copic markers really well, and I get a nice blend between the lights and darks. I do the same steps for the skin tones, and I'm starting off with an E31 and then going back in with the E33 to add in some shading around the girls. I do like to do all of my skin tones at once and just cover all the bases while I have my markers in hand. And once I have my coloring done, I'm going back in with a white marker and just adding some touches of highlights on the donuts to make them look shiny. At this point, you could also use some glossy accents or some other type of medium to make them shine. It's very handy just to use the white pen, and all the coloring and highlights goes quickly. Now that my gals are colored and die cut, I'm going to start the assembly of the shaker card. And I've cut a sheet of the Simon Says Stamp acetate in 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I've turned my arch piece over and I'll be adding my adhesive to the back side. For this, I'll be using the Simon Says Stamp Terrific tape, and I'll use it all around the border. I'll be adding my entire piece of acetate to the back side since this is also cut 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and this will give me extra durability for my shaker. Once I have my adhesive in place, I'll peel off just one section, and now I can lay my acetate on top, making sure that I align it to the size front panel. And once I have that top piece in place, I can reach under that acetate and peel back the backing of the Terrific tape and press the acetate in place. Next, I'll be adding some foam adhesive, and I'm using the Simon Says Stamp roll of foam tape, and this fits perfectly on that margin right around that arch. And once I get to the end, I can just snip this off with my scissors. I'd like to put my finger underneath and get a nice snip right at that end. I'm also going to be adding some foam to the back of my ladies, and I've cut these strips in pieces so that I can get skinnier areas for their legs. And once I have that foamed up, it'll look like this sitting over that arch dome. I'm going to be creating a wallpaper using the Simon Says Stamp Fresh Roast coffee beans, and I'm using my low tack tape to get this started on a fogged piece of cardstock. And using my flannel ink and my brown blending brush, I'm just going to go over just for a faint design of those coffee beans. I don't want anything overwhelming. This will be the backdrop of my entire shaker card. So I did want a little bit of design, but not too much. And what I like to do before I peel this up from my tape is to peel up one of the corners and just grab a peek before I move forward. Now that I have all my pieces and parts ready, I'm going to go ahead and wipe down my acetate on the inside, and I'm using a Swifter cloth. This will help clean that acetate and also remove some of the static. Next, I'll be adding in my sequins, and I like to use the flat confetti style sequins since they do sit flatter and I won't have to worry about them clumping up. Once I pour these in, I do like to check for any misshaped pieces, and I also dab my finger in a little bit and just spread them out so that I have a single layer and none of them are piled on top of each other. So to get this started, I'm going to remove the top strip, just kind of like I did with that acetate sheet before, and then I can place my backdrop or my wallpaper. I'll flip that over. And I'm going to make sure that I can line this up, and I have just that one top piece of my adhesive removed. So I can line that up really freely, and then once I know that that's in place, I can press that down. Next, I can reach under and remove the backing of the other strips of adhesive and start going around the card and making sure that all my sequins are sealed in. Next, I'll remove some of the backing of my adhesive, and I'm just going on the center of my gals. This way I can place it down right where I want. If I need to shift it around, I can peel it up easily. And then once I have those in place, I can reach underneath and grab the backing to the rest of the adhesive, and then I can press everything in place, and I know that they're aligned. For my greeting on top, I'm using the Simon Says Stamp sentiment strips, and those are from the Just Because set, and I'm using the white ones. I'll be adding some little foam squares just to the outside edges of this strip so that when I place it down, it will balance itself well over the ladies on their leg portion. So once I get my adhesives put in place, I can lay this on top, and I'm just going to place it right onto my card. And here's how my finished piece turned out. I really love how the one lady is looking at the other adoringly as she's balancing those donuts over her head. And I think it was a good choice for me to color their clothing to bring out that wood pattern on this card. I have all my supplies listed in the description box below. There's two ways of purchasing this stamp set. You can buy the stamp alone or also the stamp and die set together. We have a lot more inspiration on our blog post, and I've also attached the link below. I hope you're enjoying STAMPtember so far, and thanks so much for watching.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.